A mysterious light appears on the horizon. It doesn't make a sound, but those who see it feel compelled to follow. This is La Luz Mala, Argentina's eerie, evil light. What happens when you get too close? You might not want to find out. Today I'll tell the story of the legend of La Luz Mala, explore real-life stories, and dive into scientific explanations that show that this mystery might not just be a ghost story. Stay with me to the end and decide for yourself, and you'll see how this haunting story connects to similar phenomena across the globe. Friend, welcome to the Mysteries of Latin America. I'm Andrew, and here we explore the stories that define the different cultures from this part of the world. From unexplained phenomena to ancient stories, these tales connect us to our roots. Today we'll unravel the legend of La Luz Mala, the evil light. And I'd like to thank Adis from Miami, who sent me this story, along with a few others from a collection of stories she had that might also just end up on future episodes. Thank you, Adis. If you have a story you'd like to share of a myth, legend, element of history, or unsolved mystery, reach out in the comments or contact me at andy@andycancun.com. That's andy@andycancun.com. Now let's go to Argentina and La Luz Mala, the evil light. It was a humid summer night in Las Pampas, Argentina's iconic grassland region, vast, flat, and seemingly endless. It's the heart of the country's farming region where cattle roam freely, and the legendary gauchos, Argentina's cowboys, live out their rugged lives. But beyond its economic and cultural importance, Las Pampas is also a place of eerie quiet and isolation at night, the perfect stage for a story like this one. It was the kind of night where the air feels thick and the chirping of crickets fills the silence. Tomás Alvarez, a 32-year-old gaucho, was returning home from a day of cattle herding near Capilla del Monte, a small village steeped in old stories. Las Pampas stretched endlessly before him, dark, flat, and dotted with the faint outline of trees. His horse Moro trotted steadily, eager to reach the warmth of the stable. As Tomás neared a low patch of land where a small stream cut through a field, he noticed a light. At first he thought it was a lantern, perhaps another gaucho out late, or even someone signaling for help. But this light was strange. It hovered just above the ground, flickering in a shade of pale red. It didn't move like a flame, and there was no sound, just an eerie, unnatural stillness. Tomás halted Moro, his heart pounding. He remembered his grandmother's warnings. If you see a light in Las Pampas, don't follow it. It's La Luz Mala, and it leads men to their doom. But Tomás was a practical man. He didn't believe in ghost stories. It's just a trick of the light, he muttered to himself. Still, curiosity got the better of him, and he urged Moro forward, cautiously approaching the glow. As they got closer, Moro stopped abruptly, ears pinned back, nostrils flaring. The horse refused to move another step. Tomás dismounted, gripping the reins tightly, and walked a few paces toward the light. The air felt colder now, and a faint sulfuric smell, like rotting eggs, lingered. His skin had goosebumps, and he felt the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. The light began to move, floating further into the lowland, almost as if it were beckoning him to follow. Tomás hesitated, the rational part of his mind warring with an unshakable sense of dread. He took another step forward, and that's when he heard it. A low, guttural whisper. At first he thought it was the wind, but then the sound grew clearer. Tomás, ven, come. He froze, his heart racing. The voice was faint, but unmistakable, and it seemed to come from all directions at once. Suddenly the light darted to the left, then to the right, faster than anything natural. Moro reared back, nearly pulling the reins from Tomás's hands. Panic surged through him. he stumbled back to his horse, mounted quickly, and urged Moro into a gallop, leaving the light behind. When he reached home, Tomás was pale and trembling. His wife Clara asked what had happened, but all he could mutter was, "La Luz Mala." The next morning, Clara noticed a strange smell lingering on his clothes, the smell of sulfur. And for weeks after the encounter, Tomás suffered from vivid nightmares. In them, the light would appear outside their home, hovering near the window, whispering his name. Word of Tomás's experience spread quickly throughout the village. The older residents nodded knowingly, sharing their own stories of the light. A few even suggested that Tomás must have passed over buried treasure or even an unmarked grave, angering the spirit guarding it. Others insisted it was an anima, the restless soul of someone who had died alone and was seeking help to find peace. Tomás avoided that part of Las Pampas from then on, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the light was still watching him. Years later, he would tell his grandchildren the same warning his grandmother had given him. If you see a light in Las Pampas, don't follow it. Some mysteries are better left alone. In places like Argentina, La Luz Mala is more than just a story. It's a warning. This glowing orb of light, often red, appears at night flickering just above the ground in Las Pampas. Many believe La Luz Mala is a restless spirit, someone denied a proper burial, or perhaps a soul guarding a hidden treasure. But one thing is certain, following La Luz Mala is said to bring sickness, confusion, and even death. It's no surprise that a light appearing in the middle of nowhere could spark fear and intrigue. Over the centuries, this legend has evolved, but its core remains the same. La Luz Mala is not to be trusted. So, could there be a scientific explanation for La Luz Mala? Some researchers suggest it's a natural phenomenon. Methane gas, released from decomposing organic matter, can ignite under the right conditions, creating what's known as a floating flame. This effect has also been seen in places like Europe and has actually been reported worldwide. But methane doesn't explain everything. Why do people report feelings of fear or disorientation? Why do they claim to smell sulfur or hear faint whispers? Some scientists argue that cultural beliefs have amplified these experiences, and that if you expect to encounter something supernatural, your mind will fill in the blanks. Still, skeptics of the skeptics point out that not all encounters fit neatly into this explanation. What about the movement of the light and the sensations people describe? That's enough to keep the mystery alive. Now, stories like La Luz Mala aren't isolated to Argentina. For starters, people have had similar reports in neighboring Uruguay. In Mexico, witches are said to transform into glowing orbs of light to trick or curse unsuspecting victims. Colombia's fuego fatuo is often linked to restless spirits guarding hidden treasures in remote jungles. In Brazil, the boitatá is a glowing serpent that prowls the night, protecting the forests from those with ill intentions. Across the Atlantic, the European legends of will-o'-the-wisps, mischievous lights leading travelers astray, mirror these Latin American tales, with Scotland's spunkies and Ireland's jack-o'-lanterns rooted in similar lore. In New Orleans, ghostly lights are said to drift through swamps, tied to spirits of the past. So maybe that swamp gas thing isn't so far-fetched. In Asia, stories of mysterious lights are also found, such as Japan's Hitodama, believed to be the wandering spirits of the dead. In Australia, the Min Min lights are equally feared. These glowing orbs appear suddenly, move unpredictably, and vanish without explanation. Could all these stories share a common origin? Or do they reflect something deeper, a universal fear of the unknown? Legends like La Luz Mala remind us that mystery transcends borders and cultures. Even in today's world, where science often challenges old beliefs, stories like La Luz Mala persist. And they're not just about fear, they're about respect. Respect for the land, respect for the dead, and respect for the mysteries we can't explain. For locals, La Luz Mala is more than just a light. It's a connection to their ancestors and a reminder of the power of storytelling. Whether it's supernatural or natural, the legend endures because it speaks to something universal, the need to understand the unknown. So what do you think? Is La Luz Mala just swamp gas and imagination? Or is there something more to this haunting light? You know, when I mentioned this story to my wife, who happens to work with people from Argentina in her office here in Cancún, she went ahead and said something about, does anybody in here know about La Luz Mala? The people from Buenos Aires or the bigger cities didn't seem to know what she was talking about. But the people from the rural areas of Argentina did, and told their own stories about their brushes with La Luz Mala, or in the case of one coworker, a good light that was white that visited her in her house in rural Argentina. If you've experienced anything similar, no matter where you're from, I'd love to hear your story about it. Now, if you enjoyed this journey into the mystery of La Luz Mala, give this story a like, share it with friends, and subscribe for more stories like this. Next week, who knows what we've got ready for you, but we've got something good. You won't want to miss it. Until then, friends, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, some mysteries might be better left unexplored. I'm Andrew, and these are the mysteries of Latin America. Adios.